I'm in Nema, Michigan, talking to Rose Boshaw. Hi, Rose.
Hi.
Did you work anywhere here in town?
No, I've never, the only time I've ever worked is I worked at the rectory cleaning house for 5 different priests.
Okay.
And the last priest I worked for was Father Timok.
Okay.
And it started out with Father Frank.
Oh, you started with Father Frank, I
Yes,
see.
yeah. But other than that, Junior, I didn't do no work because I had 10 children.
Yeah.
I worked at home.
Yeah, I know. I know you had a house full.
Yeah,
That's
so
for sure.
I mean, I worked, but I was just a housewife.
Yeah. Now, so you went to the Nema school all your life?
I went to the NEMA school and I quit to get married in February of 1951.
And then, so what grade were you in when you quit?
11th grade. Well, like I said, I was married in 1951, and I remember in 1952 going to basketball games there.
Right.
Actually, it was quite a few years after that, because I remember my daughter Patty, we went to, they had it open for wedding receptions and banquets and things like that, so.
Okay.
What year they would have closed, it had to be in the 60s.
Okay.
It had to be at least in the 60s, because she was about, I recall, about 16, 15, 16 then, so.
Now, were you involved with anything that was inside the clubhouse, like the candy kitchen or the...
No.
Or bowling or anything like that?
No,
or?
but it was sure a beautiful building.
Yeah.
I mean, it housed everything in there, But the only thing I ever did in there was cheerleader. I was cheerleader for 5 years.
Okay.
And, so as far as, that's the only thing I participated in was cheerleading at the basketball games.
Right.
And sold tickets. I did sell tickets for basketball games too. But other than that, no.
Yeah.
I didn't work in there like in the candy kitchen or anything like that.
And then, so did you and Pat live in this location, in this house, all these years?
I was born down the street, the very last house next to Merle's.
Okay.
I got married down in Detroit.
Okay.
In April 7th, down in Detroit. We moved back up here in October when the American Playground took over the town.
Okay.
And so we lived in the double house down here.
Okay.
Where Mike Netto owns it, with the red roof.
Mm-hmm.
We lived there until 1956. And then we moved here, and I've lived the name all my life. I was born here. I was born at the end of the street, and I'm still here. And I will turn 80 years old in November. So I come full circle, I think, Junior. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
And the name of high school, my son Chris graduated from this school in 1970.
Okay.
That's the last class that graduated from this school here.
Okay.
1970. But the school was already consolidated at that time. The 3 schools was already consolidated in 1970.
But they were still had the separate schools.
But they still had the separate schools. The high school was here, and then the grade school was in Cooks, and another grade school part was in Garden.
Okay.
Because Chris, like Chris and Carl and Rod and Wayne Clement and Herb Pomeroy and Pat Rangat and all them graduated at this school here.
I see.
And that was 1970. That was the worst class they ever had. Yeah, I'm not kidding you.
Uh-huh.
If anybody asks you, that was the worst class. Oh my God, Carl was horrible.
Oh.
Yes, in fact, it was a hangout for Patty Megan and Ken, Tim and Melissa. Those four I really remember. And then the younger kids would go up there and ring the bell, because, you'd hear that bell and you'd say, oh, somebody's playing on the train. until the day somebody stole it.
Well, that's what I heard.
But it was a gathering place for the teenagers, the older kids, teenagers. And then for the younger kids, they played on it. Yeah, it was kind of like a gathering place. But those four people, Ken and Patty and Tim and Melissa, those are four I do remember that hung out there a lot.
Okay, all right. I'm trying to figure out that block where the hall is, where the clubhouse used to be.
Yeah, over
Okay,
here, yeah.
right. Okay, I know where the clubhouse was. On the, what was on the side? What was on this side of the road going from the clubhouse, going from Main Street down to where the hall is now? What was on that side?
Nothing.
Okay, there was nothing there?
No, between the clubhouse and the hall,
Right.
no. That was it was a big open field there.
Okay.
But on the west side of the clubhouse was the tennis court. And then when Big Baby Lumber Company owned it, then there was the boarding house and the cookhouse.
Okay.
And then there was a double house right on the corner where where the basketball court is down there.
Yeah.
There used to be a double house because Madeline Turek used to live in there when she got married. But in the middle it was just a big field because when I was a child, circuses used to come with elephants and all that. When I was small, probably 10, 11 years old. That open field that have circuses. And then, of course, back of the clubhouse, it was a parking spot for the bar. Cars parked back there.
Now,
When I lived in, but when the town burnt back in 1921, there was houses on that street.
Okay.
But that was back in 1921. I didn't see no houses on that street. In the same block with the clubhouse. American Playground moved up here, they bought, and they used, that was their ed office. They moved, American Playground in 1951-52 moved their whole business up here.
Okay.
The hotel was their office. They put all electric heat in there and everything at that time. But then the owner's son, Phil Miller, his wife did not like it up here. And so they moved half of it back to Anderson and left half of it here. The painting and that was done here because my husband, Pat, did all the painting, painted all the playground equipment. That was his job, head painter down here.
And, because I thought the office was the brick building where Christine's gallery is.
Yeah, well, that was the office for the Beatty Knock Lumber Company.
Okay. I mean, I thought that's where American Playground had their office.
They had part of it there, but the main one was the hotel.
I see.
Yeah, because Joni Seplik used to work there too. She worked for the American Playground. That's where I went when Chris was born. It was the big Beatty Knock Lumber Company always had their own doctor. And the doctor had their own house. It was a big, big home right next to the Protestant church down there.
Okay.
It was big. I mean, you could go upstairs and go down the hall and go downstairs in the back and had 2 sets of stairs. They always had a doctor. And then right on the corner, across from the basketball court down here, right on the corner was the hospital. Had beds in there and everything for patients. But it was smack on the corner. Even yet, it shows a cement that went into the side door.
I see.
It's very close to the cream-colored house that sits here at the end of the street. But it was right on the corner.
Okay.
And then when the American Playground bought, well, then the doctor was here for a while because he delivered Chris. And Chris was born in 1952. So the company doctor was still here in 1952, Dr. Bernier. He was Spanish.
Oh, Spanish.
Spanish doctor, yeah. And his wife was Spanish. He was
Okay.
so loud, I'm telling you, if you went in there, everybody in the waiting room could hear everything he said, I'll tell you. But, so I know he was still here in 1952.
How was that school laid out? What was in the basement and what did they have upstairs?
The school was in the shape of a T. The front part, and then the back way. The back part was the grade school. The front part was the high school.
I see.
Down in the basement was the cafeteria and the shop, the workshop. You know, the guys did their craft work down there. The back of the school went up to the 6th grade. There was a long hall, and there was classrooms off that long hall. And you got up to where it connected with the high school. You know, there was the girls' restroom, and then where the stretched across the front, there was the boys' restroom. But there was a big study hall, we call it. Back then, you had study halls. You had an hour where you could do your studies, and you wouldn't have to take homework home. You don't have that now. You have one class after another.
Yeah.
But there was the study hall, and there was the library, there was the superintendent's office, there was a science room, there was a home economics room. It was a very nice high school. And Grandpa Boshaw, Homer Boshaw and Grandma Boshaw was the custodians. And they did a good job. Every time, like Christmas time, he removed all the chairs out of those rooms and sanded and varnished the floors. When we come back after New Year's, that was just beautiful in there. Just beautiful. All leather furniture in the lobby when you come in, you know, and leather furniture in the men's lounge. Beautiful furniture in the ladies' lounge. It was a fabulous place. A stage with the maroon velvet drapes. You know, we used to have plays. You know, seniors would have their school plays there. Santa Claus would come, and yeah, that was a beautiful building. But see, they heated all those buildings from the Badenoch Lumber Company. They were all heated with steam.
Okay.
And so then when the American Playground bought, there was no steam coming from the lumber company anymore, so they couldn't afford to heat that big building anymore. That steam from the big Badenoch Lumber Company, it heated the store, the hotel, the yellow house that they call the hospitality house. It heated the clubhouse, it heated the boarding house, the cookhouse, and the hospital. It heated all those buildings. They were all steam heated. Before my daughter Candy died of breast cancer, you know, she was going to start writing children's stories, but she had to write a biography of herself, you know. And in that biography, she said, you know, she was talking, she said, there was no place like the name of beach. And really, Junior, there was no place like the name of beach. It was beautiful. It was beautiful, like nice sugar sand, you know. Just a beautiful beach, and it's sad that the American Playground sold it all in different plots, where either them or the Badenoch Lumber Company should have kept a section for the township.
Right.
And they never did. And that's sad. Because now unless the people down there let you swim on the beach, there's no beach for us here. And then the No Nama Resorts got that, but they charge you to go back there and swim.
Yeah.
And that's not a good beach. It's not like what we have down here. But that was a big mistake that those two companies made, not saving a section for the public.
Now those certain places were heated with steam back in the day. Now as far as the other residents, were they only able to burn wood, or were they able to buy steam from the plant?
No, they didn't get steam from the plant.
Okay.
No, they burnt wood. I don't know how much they paid for a load of wood, but the Beatty Knock Lumber Company delivered the wood to them. You know, they'd order their loads of wood for the winter, and the Beatty Knock Lumber Company delivered truckloads of wood to them. That was all not split, but cut up in chunks. You know. Everybody burnt wood. Just those business places that had the steam heat.
What were the hours for that clubhouse?
I think it started at noon, and I don't know what, probably 12 o'clock at night, probably during the week, but weekends probably later, but I'm pretty sure they opened up at noon. And until, you know, and probably they closed earlier at night. If they didn't have people there, they probably closed earlier, but I would say from 12 to 12.
Now, who were Pearl and Shirley Warner? Pearl and Shirley Warner.
They were they managed the clubhouse. She worked the cafeteria, he worked the bar. And he ruled the roost, because I'll tell you, us kids, you like to go sit in the lobby, and they'd say, "Oh my God, here comes Shirley down the hall," and we'd all run out the front door, you know, because he was an old crab. But yeah, they managed the place too.
Okay, so Shirley was in the bar and Pearl was in the candy kitchen, from what I understand.
Yes, yeah, she took care of the candy kitchen, and he tended the bar, but he made sure everything went smooth in the whole building, you know what I mean? I mean, he didn't put up with any tomfoolery in there. But she mainly stayed in the candy kitchen, sure, like the girl did. You know, the golf courses there, in fact, when the golf course was put there, there was only the big shots could play golf on it. You know, like Acker and Alan Mercier and those, they was the only ones that could play on it. That golf course has been there way before, you know, I think before I was born. It was about that time anyway, and I was born at 34. But they did have sections where people had their own, you know, a community garden, like Escanada's got community gardens down there by the airport. They had community gardens out there because my husband, his parents had some out there. And they used to have to go out there and weed and water every so often, you know, and steal watermelons from the other guys' plots. That's what he told me, they stole watermelons from other guys' plots. But where Darlene's house is, that was Mr. and Mrs. LaBombard, Cocky LaBombard lived there. Because they ran the horses that was at the barn.
Oh, the barn down here.
The barn, you know, back here. They'd run the horses out to it was called the farm. And where Darlene's house is, there was horse troughs there. That's where the horses were, on that side of the road. Cocky LaBombard and his wife managed that.
Okay. Oh, so,
We always called that the farm road.
okay, so there was horse barns behind Darlene's place then.
Well, I can't remember horse barns being there, but they did bring the horses out there to graze. I remember that because I remember the horse troughs there.
Okay.
And the Bombard's, you know, that house wasn't as nice as it is now. It was like kind of a shack, like, you know. I mean, Bob and Darlene fixed that house up nice. But yeah, they'd run the company horses out there, and they grazed out there because, you know, it's grown over now, Junior, and they planted trees there and everything, but it was all open.
Okay.
And you know, they always had like 10, 15 horses here. I don't remember that, but I know there was a school back at Johnson's house there.
Okay.
There was a road. You know what Mary Johnson's house there?
Right.
She was a go after. Anyway, that house is on a corner where their son Donnie's house is. There was a road that went back there. Back in there was a schoolhouse. That's where all the Isabel kids went to school, like the Cambers and that went to school there.
Okay, so they didn't go to name it then.
Not back then.
Oh.
No, I mean that's old. It was just a little school.
How big was Sandytown?
Well,
I mean, did it?
Most of it started right at the bridge
Okay.
and went probably a little past the cut across road.
Okay.
But then Bursaw's. I think it was Bursaw's lived up there where Patty Megan's house is, where our water pump is. That she weaved baskets and everything. Is that Bursaw's? I think Beavers. I don't know if it's Beavers. Beavers, I think, eh?
Yeah.
But I think Sandtown only extended that far. And I remember the house was just as clear as could be, but then beyond that was the airport.
Okay.
That's where Rangettes and them landed their planes. And it was the sand was so hard it was like cement, like a nice runway.
Who ran the store?
First of all, when I remember, it was Clyde Tobin. And then when Clyde Tobin retired, Joe Sesson.
Now where the hotel is, from the hotel down to Bramer's, was that always all houses, or was there some businesses in between that?
No, there was no business. Oh, I take that back. You know where the fishing site is now? Yeah, there was a garage there, a gas station. Heberts used to own it. I mean, they had the pit and everything, to work on vehicles and work on school buses and everything. Yeah, and that was there for a long time because Wally Burnett managed it too after a while. When he was a school bus driver, that he managed that. You could get gas back there. You could have your vehicles worked on. They worked on the school buses. That was right back. And then they had, how the storage sheds are now that you see? The people rent storage sheds, or there's those long sections of buildings.
Yeah.
Well, they had 2 rows of those back there. People stored their cars or whatever in there.
I see.
And that was going toward the schoolhouse, then back of Mutt's house, back there. Oh, yeah. Big lumber company built that. Well, the church is over 100 years old.
Oh, the one that's down there now?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I didn't.
Big the lumber company built that.
I see. I didn't know if that was the original church.
It is. Oh, yeah. That's the original church. That and the Protestant church.
I see. I see. And what about, was there anything down that road past the church, like going towards Max?
Well, years and years ago, part of the Big Badenoch Lumber Company, they had a mill on that road.
Oh, okay.
Before my time, but it is the history. There was a mill on that road. Probably not as big as the one down here on Bay, but yeah.
Okay, but it was the same kind of mill though.
Yeah, lumber company.
Okay.
Badenoch Lumber Company was here in 1921. That's when the town burnt. It burnt like where the hall is, and this whole street here burnt.
Oh, okay.
And because I always remember Pat's mother saying she was pregnant for her second child, and she had to push the baby in the baby buggy down the ridges. These houses on the street, so I know was was built. Probably a year or so after 1921. These were the newest houses, this street was, because of the fire. That was 1921 when the town burned.
So the house that was on this land here burned down in that fire.
Yeah, and then they rebuilt.
So this house is basically built around 1921, 1922.
Right.
So,
Buddy Bennett's dad, Mr. Paul, took care of the horses there.
okay.
Yeah, that's where they had the horses.
Now, where did Bunny Bennett live in town here?
At first she lived down by the next to the rectory, and then they moved right down here, right by the hall,
Okay.
her and Wally. There was a hall there before that.
Oh, there was.
My father was with the Boy Scouts, and up at Camp Redbuck, at Federal 13, and he was able to get these two buildings. And he slid them down, all the way down Federal 13, come down the highway, and this is by probably 1952, 53. Let's see, it's been here, yeah, I'd say 1952. Come down Main Street and hauled them, and set them up there. And connected the two buildings. The end, on that other end was for receptions or anything, and the other end facing this way was for teenagers. They had jukebox in there, and in the middle they had a refreshment stand where the two buildings connected. And because I remember going down there and polka dancing and everything, yeah. But then after a while, we were able to go down to, nope, that's the old clubhouse, I'm thinking, the old clubhouse. We had a room down there for the teenagers, the old one, that burned before they built the new one.
Right.
A CJ is a fat place to go. But then when that happened, then we went down to the hall here. Yeah,
Okay.
it was nice.
Okay.
You know, to tell you the truth, I know they must have tore that down to build a new township hall. But my dad brought that down. He skidded it down in the middle of the winter. It was a Sunday. That was a chore. When Roosh was living there,
Okay.
I remember him calling the hall a Mickey Mouse factory because he didn't think it was constructed right.
Okay.
On the beach. It was carefree days. It was interesting. You know, I mean, my time growing up here was good. I mean, you know, in the summertime you spend on the beach or playing in the ridges, and I thought some very good memories of Namath growing up, and my kids do too. It was a perfect town to grow up in. There's nothing here now, but back then, you know, I mean, the company store, you know, you could go up there and get all your groceries. You owe your soul to the company store. That's about it.
Yeah, pretty
When
much.
yep, you did. You paid up on Friday and you charged again, and you paid up on Friday and you charged again.
Yeah. Is that?
No, she never lived here in town.
Oh, okay.
She probably donated quite a bit to the church, I don't know, but no. She was a dentist in Escanaba. She had a cabin up on Federal 13, and she'd come here for Mass all the time if they were up to the cabin. And then she came to the school here periodically to do dental work on kids, free at that time. And then when she did, she lived with Pat's mother, dad, Mr. and Mrs. Bosa,
Okay.
because they lived right across from the school.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she used to stay with them. But, yeah, that's who that is. That's all. No, a lot of people like to drink that water.
Okay.
You know, it's a natural flowing well.
Okay.
No, I don't ever remember having to haul water from the unless my neighbor wanted my kids to go up there and get water for her, but, you know, to drink, but no.
Because I was under the impression that's what that was for back in the day, is to basically haul water around town.
Not that I know of. The only thing they hauled around town was ice for ice boxes.
I see.
You know, and, Pat's brother Glenn did that in the summertime. The lumber company would cut ice in the winter, and down by where the fishing site is now, it was like a little island off by itself that's grown over now, but they would bury their ice into that with sawdust and whatnot.
Okay.
And then in the summertime, they furnished ice because you didn't have refrigerators like that. No, you had ice boxes.
Right, right.
So he'd come with these big tongs and their big hunk ice, you know. The what?
Ladder racks?
Oh, yes, there was one right out here.
For the fire ladders?
They were green and orange. Yeah, there was one right out here, right across from Rush's house there, yeah. It was a long section with a little green roof, and then the ladders hung on each side of it.
Okay. And then when were those put in?
Oh, God, I have no idea when those were put in. That was probably put in by the American Playground Company too, because
Okay,
you know, when the American Playground Company took over, Nema was in bad shape. And they cleaned up the town. They made everybody put bathrooms in right away, because there was still a lot of outdoor toilets. Nema was infested by rats. When they tore the boarding house down, Pat come home from work one day, he said, you know, those rats didn't have no place to go. They were sitting on the Civic Center steps. There was so many, but, and everybody had to get garbage cans. Because you know what they did? Just like back here. They threw their garbage over the back fence. And back to the double houses. There was 5 double houses. There was an alley that ran back there. That was just a pile of garbage.
Okay.
So when the American Playground took over, they cleaned up the town. Everybody had to have inside toilets, and everybody had to have garbage cans. Yeah, there was ridges. We played in the ridges. There was paths that went through there to connect that with the farm road. And we'd take those ridges to go to the beach. You could ride bikes through there or anything, yeah. There was 3 ridges there that we chose, whatever one we wanted to go on, you know, to connect with the farm road, the Isabella Road. But there was no houses there. The double house was the last one, and my mom's house was the last one on this side.
Okay, you said American Playground closed in 1990?
Yeah, they didn't rehire their employees back in 1990. Actually, November of 1989 was their last working days. And when it come to May of 1990, my husband thought they'd be going back to work until Boop Ritter come over one day and said, no, Pat, they're not opening up the plant this year. They're done. But American Playground hired me, Boop said, and his brother Ace to work at the golf course. It was just those 2 guys that was going to be hired back with American Playground. They were going to mow the golf course, keep it up. But, so that was May of 1990, was